We are southeast of Erie in the Franklin Area School District, and we're talking with Dr. Gino Thomas, the superintendent, about the State of Education report. Gino, good to see you.
Nice to see you, Nathan. Thank you for making the trip. We're
Absolutely.
honored and privileged to have you here.
The State of Ed talked about a couple of high-level issues I want to ask you about and how it impacts your district. Let's start with infrastructure and facilities. Talk about your experience here in Franklin.
Absolutely. Coming into Franklin, we were in a position in a really unique situation where we have just become debt-free in our district and haven't had renovations of our facilities in about 20 to 25 years. And we're starting to narrow in on some of the ideas that we want to implement within our school and district. But as you probably realize, we're faced with quite a crisis right now, and it has to do with school finances and our economy.
So talk to me about Franklin area and what you're going to do. Let's assume everything stays as it is, costs and all that, and PlanCon's not here. You've got to go forward. How are you going to do it for Franklin area?
You know, it's a challenge. In 25 plus years in administration, it's the first time I've ever had to sit there and realize that we're probably not going to be able to do everything at once. We're going to have to do it in multi-phases over multiple years. I mean, we're just looking at our air handler systems, our lighting, transportation costs in the past 3 years. The costs of buses have doubled, and the costs have increased almost 30% since our last contract. Health insurances. We're looking at a 15 to 20% increase every single year. So we're going to have to do some really hard strategic planning, not only with outside consultants, but with our board and community to decide how we're going to phase this in over the next several years in order to keep the facilities upkept the way it should be and the best learning environments for our students.
Perfect segue with everything you just listed, and it was a long list.
Yes.
When we talk about budget pressures. Talk to me a little bit about what that impact is.
Well, locally, statewide, and nationally, I think there's a crisis in the way the schools are funded and what occurs within the schools and the needs of the students and families and communities and staff members. And when you compound all the costs of transportation, food services, looking at our buildings, grounds, and facilities, cyber costs to the district, and most importantly, the increase of staff salaries and insurances and the benefits, we're looking at maybe 4 to 5% on student supplies and materials for within the classroom. And our BEF and our inflation is going twice the speed of the rate of the revenues that are coming in.
Something you said at the end there jumps out at me because your list of all of these budget pressures, pretty far down the list until you really get to what I would consider to be what's going on inside the classroom.
Yes.
You know, so when we think about educating students, when we think about schools and school districts, it takes a little while till we get to the what's it going to take and what are the challenges within the classroom. A lot of people, I think, when they hear about school funding, they assume that it's just simply the cost of what it takes to do what you need to do in the classroom. You want to provide a world-class education. But
Right.
you get so many other things coming up first.
Absolutely. And, you know, 5 years ago, we didn't have the mental health issues that we're dealing with in schools. And just one aspect of that again, increases the classroom sizes, minimizes the cost that we could spend per student, has to deal with the resources that we're faced with and the lack of resources within our schools and districts across the state in order to address the mental health issues of students. It used to be in school whenever there were issues with bullying or with teasing or with students that are upset, you had 8 hours a day and you could address those issues, talk with the parents and the families, and they would take those issues. But it's a pandemic today, and it happens more outside of the schools and carries into the schools. And having to just allocate our resources to these mental health services and totally change the way that we approach students and families in communities and education has totally depleted the monies that we get from the state and is exceeding the cost of helping those families get through these crises so they come into classrooms ready to learn. And that's a challenge. But as schools, when we're tasked with giving the students the best educational environment, we have to make sure that we have the resources, the staff, and most importantly, the wherewithal and time to be able to address those needs head on to get the kids ready to learn.
Gina, you've tied it all together about as neatly as anybody could with the kinds of weighty issues that you and I think all public school districts are dealing with. We're really, as it came out in the survey, talking about mental health and the impact, not just the challenges that you've described in the district itself, but then the impact on the bottom line budget and what that's taking away from in other places. And of course, budget and as we talk about facilities. We've talked a lot about the challenges.
Yes.
Before I let you go, talk to me a little bit about something amazing that's happening, because it's a great district. I want to make sure that we're sharing amazing things that are happening in schools. So what's exciting right now in Franklin area?
You know, I could probably list a whole laundry list of items.
I'm sure.
As most districts can. One of the items that I think is really important is to showcase is obviously the students and staff and community, the partnerships that we have formed within the district with our businesses outside of the schools to give students opportunities to be able to go out to job shadow, to get summer jobs, and also to have them in Career Day be an influence for their teaching and learning within the schools. If you take that and you compound that with the amazing technology department that we have that are years ahead, we're being able to give those students the tools through our robotics programs, through our VEX robotics, through our esports, and through utilizing technology as a tool within all of our classrooms that the staff has embraced to allow those students to be prepared to enter the next phases of their higher level of learning or the workforce.
Good to see you as always.
Thank you, Nathan. Appreciate it.
For more information on the State of Education report, please visit psba.org.